Hello everyone, I'm Vanish Signal. Before we get into tonight's footage, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Story 1. Mile marker 237. The first report came in just after 1:30 a.m. A trucker named Darren Mullins pulled into the Barrow County Way station off Route 14, white-knuckled and shaking. His hands wouldn't stop twitching on the steering wheel. He kept checking his mirrors, glancing at the dark lot behind him like something had followed him off the road. When the officer on duty came over, Darren rolled down the window just a few inches and whispered, "Something's out there." He looked like he hadn't blinked in a while. He said he'd been driving the same stretch for over 12 years, same route, same hours, and he'd never once seen anything like what he just passed. Whatever it was didn't belong on the road. It didn't move like a person or even like an animal. It just stood there, tall, lean, maybe 6.5 feet, dead center between the lane markers at mile 237, perfectly still. No lights, no reflective gear, no car nearby. And when Darren blasted it with his high beams, it didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't turn its head, just stared back, blank. The moment he passed it, he checked his rear view, and it was already gone. There was no shoulder it could have ducked into, no trees, no cover, just asphalt and dark. The way station supervisor logged it as a pedestrian sighting, filed a report for highway patrol to sweep the mile marker, and suggested Darren take a break. Darren didn't argue. He parked his rig, locked the doors, covered the windows, and sat in the cab in complete silence until the sun came up. At 3:47 a.m., a state trooper ran dashcam footage through the same stretch. He didn't see anyone either. But just before he hit mile marker 237, the cruiser's camera glitched. A hiccup in the feed, half a second of skipped frames followed by a 6-second burst of visual noise. The file corrupted itself. When pulled later, the data was gone, overwritten by a loop of grainy static that pulsed unnaturally, like something breathing. That same hour, dispatch received 3 separate reports. A rideshare driver called in, panicked, said she'd felt the back seat shift like someone sat down. Only the door had unlocked by itself, and her app hadn't updated a new pickup in over 30 miles. A motorcyclist flagged down a rest stop employee. He'd blown a tire just past the marker and pulled over to inspect it. While crouched on the roadside, he swore he heard someone whisper his full name from across the median. He scanned the brush with his flashlight. Nothing. And a long-haul driver out of Kentucky radioed his dispatcher to report seeing his own truck. Not a similar model, his exact truck. Same cab design, same grille damage, same company branding, and the exact same license plate. It was parked on the opposite shoulder with hazard lights blinking. He turned around, drove back to investigate, but there was nothing there. We pulled the footage from each available source. Not much survived. Mostly flickers, glitches, camera lenses fogged over or distorted. But one video stood out, shot from a rear dash cam. It caught the edge of something tall on the shoulder, only visible for 2 frames, but enough to analyze. The figure had a slouched posture, head tilted with one hand raised, not waving, reaching, right before the image smeared sideways, like something pressed against the frame and cut to black. They found the first car just after dawn, 2 miles down from mile marker 237. It had been pulled off onto an old service road that hadn't seen regular use in decades. Grass knifing through the pavement, tree limbs sprawled across the cracked asphalt like skeletal debris. The car itself sat still, like it had been abandoned mid-thought. Driver's side door hung wide open. Hazard lights blinked with metronomic indifference. Just outside the frame, a phone lay face up on the gravel, screen cracked, camera app still open, and recording nothing but static. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints around the vehicle, but the interior was unsettling. All the mirrors, side, visor, rear view, had been shattered and then meticulously rearranged. Shards lined the cup holders, stuffed into the seat back pockets, wedged into the air vents like someone had wanted to eliminate every last reflective surface. The rear view mirror had been bent until it snapped, the metal warped in a way that suggested rage or desperation, or both. They ran the plates. The vehicle belonged to a woman out of Athens, early 30s, no criminal record, still listed as missing. Her last known location pinged from the edge of Route 14 at 11:47 p.m. the previous night. After that, nothing. Around 10:22 a.m., a Department of Transportation technician flagged down a passing officer near a maintenance checkpoint just past mile 237. The tech had been replacing an old roadside camera unit. Standard protocol. But when he plugged the old unit into his diagnostic tablet to check the final recordings, the video wouldn't play. Just a blank screen. But the audio feed worked. At first, it was nothing but static. Then, slow breathing emerged. Measured, intentional, like someone inhaling through soaked cloth. A low rasp carried through. Then, beneath that, a whisper. Muffled, fragmented, mostly unintelligible, but 3 words were unmistakable. "I'm behind you now." The officer took the camera and later played the recording again at the station. This time, the audio was completely gone. Just silence and the faint mechanical hiss of empty tape cycling. But the original transcript, already auto-logged by the tablet, remained intact. They sent a crew out to sweep the roadside and nearby brush, extending the search perimeter in a 10-mile radius around mile marker 237. They turned up nothing until a second vehicle was found. This one tucked into the bend of a dry creek bed beneath a collapsed fence. Same eerie condition. All mirrors dismantled or destroyed, hazard lights clicking. But this time, a trail of boot prints led away from the car, pressed deep into the mud. The trail continued for 20 yards, then stopped, abruptly, mid-stride, as if whoever had walked it had been lifted straight off the ground. That afternoon, officials quietly suspended all non-essential traffic through the affected stretch. Warnings were issued under the guise of road damage from a recent storm. But still, the stories continued, drifting in anonymously. A cyclist who swore the fog swallowed the road in seconds. A woman who claimed she passed a man walking the shoulder with no discernible face. A rest stop janitor who said someone stood motionless in the tree line for 40 full minutes, unmoving, unblinking. Each account ended the same way. When they looked again, the road was empty. But the feeling of being watched lingered. And not one of them could remember ever passing mile marker 237. As if the stretch of road didn't just erase people, it erased itself. Or maybe it was never supposed to exist at all. It was just after 3 a.m. when dispatch logged the third report from the Route 11 corridor. Same stretch of road, same mile marker. This time, the call came from a long-haul driver named Alvin Raines. He'd been hauling a double trailer of frozen meat from Missouri to Colorado. Veteran driver, 20 years behind the wheel. He wasn't the kind of man who got rattled by shadows or stories. According to the recording, Alvin's voice started out steady, clear, controlled, but it didn't stay that way for long. About 40 seconds in, there was a change. Subtle at first, then sharp. "I passed a guy on the shoulder," he said. Thought it was a trooper at first, standing real still, facing traffic. No flashlight, no cruiser, just watching. Didn't wave, didn't flinch. Nothing. I slowed a little. Thought maybe I should pull over, check on him. He looked like he needed help. But then I glanced in the rear view, and he was gone. Just gone. Dispatch tried to keep him focused, asked for landmarks, a full physical description. But Alvin's breathing picked up. His words came faster. There's another one up ahead. Swear to God. Same guy, same building, same stance. How the hell did he... The line cut. Not a dropout, not interference. Full static, sharp and violent. 12 seconds of it. Then the call resumed, but Alvin's voice was different. Quieter, strained, he was whispering. He's outside the cab, not moving, not knocking, just looking through the glass. I can't see his eyes. I can't see his eyes. That was the last thing he said clearly. The rest of the call devolved into shallow breathing, measured, unnatural. Not panic, but something else. Like he was syncing with something that didn't breathe right. A few scattered words were caught by the recorder. Mirror, miles, copy. But they were half-formed, like fragments of a dream. Troopers reached the scene 20 minutes later. His rig sat in the middle of the road, perfectly centered. Engine humming. Lights on. No sign of Alvin. Doors locked. No shattered glass. No drag marks. No footprints in the gravel or the brush. Just a single handprint on the inside of the passenger window. Not smudged, not streaked. Just one clean, perfect mark. They pulled the dash cam. It had been recording. The final 10 minutes looped 3 times before the system froze. What it showed didn't line up with the route logs. Alvin had passed the same exact mile marker 5 times. Same bent speed sign, same crumbling billboard, same cluster of dead weeds poking through the shoulder, same broken reflector just beyond the white line. Each pass, the landscape never changed. But one thing did. The figure. First time it stood far off the shoulder, just a silhouette. Next pass, it was standing on the white line, then closer, then directly in front of the truck. But Alvin never hit the brakes, never swerved. He kept driving, straight, unchanging, and the figure never moved. The last frame before the feed died showed a face in the windshield's reflection. It wasn't Alvin's. Not completely. The jaw was too still, the eyes too wide, too round. The mouth curved up into a smile, one that stretched too far and showed no teeth at all. Alvin Raines hasn't turned up. Not in the woods, not down the embankment. No calls, no trace. But truckers still report strange sightings on Route 11. They say sometimes, in the dark just before dawn, you'll see a parked rig idling on the shoulder, engine off, hazard lights flashing, ticking in perfect time. And if you pass it too slowly, you'll see someone in the driver's seat, someone who never blinks. We arrived back at the diner just after 3 a.m. The neon open sign flickered, casting uneven red light across the parking lot like it was struggling to stay relevant in a world that had forgotten it. Harper parked across 3 spaces like she always did when she was pissed, engine still rumbling beneath her frustration. Neither of us said a word. Not about the shape we saw in the median, not about the sound it made, not about the way the dashboard clock froze for 5 full minutes. Inside, the diner was empty again. Or it was supposed to be. As we walked past the booths toward the back office, we noticed something strange. The place hadn't changed at all. Same untouched condiments, same static-filled jukebox, same coffee pot still half full. But someone had been there. The sugar packets on table 6 had been arranged into a spiral. The napkin dispenser on 8 had a single note jammed in the slot. Mile marker 197, don't blink. Harper took a photo of it with her phone, but the image wouldn't save. Just a black square, When she tried again, her phone restarted on its own. I moved toward the office, my hand grazing the wall as I walked, until I felt something warm. The wall pulsed. I jerked back, heart hammering. Harper didn't see it, or pretended not to. She was staring at the small CRT monitor above the register, the one that used to show the rear parking lot before the feed died a few months ago. Except now, it was on. The screen flickered with pale static, and through the fuzz, we could make out a still image. Not video. A freeze frame. It was the back lot. Same gravel patches, same busted vending machine. But there was someone standing by the dumpster. Back turned, unmoving, dressed in something dark and out of season. "Pause it," Harper said. "It's not playing," I replied. She moved toward the monitor anyway, as if she could step through it. We never installed a hard drive in that system. How is this image still here? I didn't have an answer. But then, the figure moved. Not on the screen. Outside. We turned in time to see a silhouette passing the side window. Slowly, calmly, as if it had been watching us the whole time and was now ready to leave. I sprinted to the door and yanked it open. The lot was empty, but there were footprints in the gravel. Deep, deliberate, each spaced evenly like it was pacing. But not toward the window, away from it. The trail led to the vending machine, circled it twice, and stopped. No more prints, no tire tracks, no signs of a car. Just a single receipt lying beneath the machine. Crumpled, old. But the date stamped on it was tomorrow. Back inside, Harper didn't speak. She grabbed the receiver off the wall-mounted payphone behind the register, the one that hadn't had a dial tone since the county switched to digital lines, and placed it to her ear. I expected silence. Instead, her voice came through. But she wasn't speaking. The receiver echoed her voice from a different moment. She was describing a man at the roadside. Same words she said last night, same breath. But her mouth was closed. She hung up quickly. "I think we're being recorded," she said. I nodded. But I didn't tell her what I was thinking. I didn't tell her that when I saw the figure outside, he looked like me. The final transmission from the Highway 41 patrol unit came in at 3:37 a.m., nearly lost in a wash of wind and static. The voice that came through was strained, barely more than a whisper. "It's not the road. It's what's under it." Then, nothing. No follow-up. Just dead air. Backup units were dispatched within seconds, converging on the GPS coordinates from the last ping. When they arrived, they found the cruiser idling at the side of the highway, driver's side door hanging open, hazard lights flashing rhythmically into the darkness. The car was empty, still warm. A single set of boot prints led down the nearby embankment into the tall grass. The trail stretched for about 30 meters, then stopped without warning, mid-step. One foot up, one down, as though the officer had been plucked straight from the world. The ground around the end of the trail wasn't disrupted like you'd expect from a scuffle or an accident. It was unnaturally smooth, flattened, pressed down into a wide, 10-foot spiral pattern. The grass within the spiral had been burned low, not charred black, but scraped and singed with surgical precision, as if something heavy had landed, spun slowly, and vanished. There were no tire tracks, no scent, just the spiral, humming silently beneath the wind. Later that morning, technicians pulled the dash cam footage. What they found didn't make sense. At 3:33 a.m., the camera picked up a figure walking toward the cruiser along the center line of the road. The quality wasn't great, but it clearly resembled an officer. Same uniform, same flashlight swinging at their side. But records confirmed there were no other patrols nearby. and the timestamp confirmed what no one wanted to admit. The figure's movement was bizarre, perfectly matched to the pacing of the cruiser's reverse camera feed, always centered, never gaining or falling behind. It didn't respond to light or sound, just kept walking, steady as a metronome. At 3:36, the cabin lights inside the cruiser flickered twice. The microphone picked up a quiet voice from inside. "It's wearing my face." Outside, the figure stopped. It raised one hand in a slow, deliberate wave, and then the feed went black. Since that night, that same quarter-mile stretch of Highway 41 has become infamous among local officers. 11 breakdowns, 4 cars found abandoned, 3 separate missing persons reports, all within eyeshot of the spiral. No witnesses, no evidence, just radios left transmitting soft static until the batteries died. Official statements blame weather, fatigue, even raccoons chewing wires. But internal records show something more troubling. Someone submitted a request to disable the highway's surveillance systems entirely. Not a standard form, no badge number, no digital signature, just a sentence left in the comments field. The road learns who drives it. I couldn't let it go. Last week I drove that stretch alone. No lights, no radio. Just the hum of tires against the road and the deep press of silence around me. The air felt too still, like the world was holding its breath. And then I saw it. A shape just ahead, barely inside the fog. Standing still, watching. I didn't stop. I kept driving. But in the rearview mirror, something was in the back seat. It looked like me. And when our eyes met, it smiled. End of story, story 2. Shoulder Route 11. The report came in just past midnight. A maintenance crew had flagged a highway cam on Shoulder Route 11 as unresponsive. Normal fix would have waited until morning, but dispatch got a ping from the same camera's backup channel, an automatic motion alert sent out without any attached video. That's not supposed to happen. The backup trigger only activates if the main feed captures movement that can't be categorized. Human, animal, vehicle. None were identified. It just labeled the event as unknown. I was the closest unit with clearance for system-side check-ins, so I got dispatched to the relay shed near mile marker 38. That's a dead stretch of road, shoulder gravel, an endless tree line, and a sense that whatever built this route didn't expect anyone to stop here. The trees on either side press inward, like they're trying to reclaim the pavement. The shed was locked, no signs of tampering. I keyed in and stepped into the dry hum of electronics. Everything was still running. 4 camera feeds glowed across the wall-mounted monitors. 3 showed what they should: empty road, swaying branches, the occasional flicker of wind-blown debris. A moth danced across one lens. Routine stuff. But the 4th feed, cam 1138, was off. Not offline, not glitched. Office, not black like a night feed with no light source, just void, an absence of return. The timestamp still ran. Network diagnostics were all green. I checked the power lines, ran a soft reset. The cam reported back as active, but it wasn't showing anything, like it wasn't looking at anything real anymore. Then it moved. A tiny shift, barely perceptible, just a few degrees left. Not a lens focus or digital stutter. The whole camera housing tilted, the kind of move a maintenance tech would make by hand. Except I was the only tech cleared for this zone, and I hadn't touched it. The screen still showed nothing, just dark. But at the new angle, something changed. The lower right edge of the display picked up a faint shimmer like a reflection. Metal? Eyes? I couldn't tell. It was static at first, then a sharp glint like wet stone catching moonlight. I stepped closer. The void shimmered, and for one frame, less than a second, a shape appeared. It wasn't walking. It wasn't moving at all. It was simply there. Upright, centered, staring. Gone. I hit rewind. Buffer access denied. I triggered a local copy dump. Failed. Retried. Nothing. The system refused to acknowledge what had just been displayed. That's when I noticed the feed from CAM, 1137 shift. That's the next unit down the route, just a few hundred feet. The figure was on it. Closer now. Same stillness, same posture, but clearer. No motion detection alert, no heat, no ID overlay. But the timestamp hadn't skipped. And now, it was facing the lens directly. The sheriff's dash cam cut out just before the curve. That's what the text said anyway. 1 minute of clear night road, headlights sweeping the shoulder, then total black. Not even static, just a blank void. When playback resumed, the vehicle was stationary. Headlights still on, engine quietly idling. But the road ahead was deserted. The timestamp advanced as normal. 38 seconds of nothingness. Then the audio returned, a heavy metallic knock. Once, sharp, then dead silence. I reviewed the footage 4 times before catching it. Frame 2034. A shape barely distinguishable just left of center screen. Too short to be a tree, too thin to be a post. It didn't belong. And it wasn't there in the frames before or after. It was like it had slipped into that exact moment and vanished again. When Deputy Rains came to, he was still inside the cruiser, hands on the wheel. No memory of stopping. The last thing he recalled was passing the old wind farm sign and radioing dispatch that the stretch was clear. No impact, no brake slam, just a blink, and suddenly 20 minutes had passed. Parked, silent, alone, except he wasn't. He noticed it when he checked the rearview mirror. A smudge on the inside of the rear window. Greasy, distinct, 3 streaks, faint but unmistakably finger marks. Not shaped right, though. Too long, too narrow, almost insect-like. The cruiser had been sealed since shift start. Nobody else had been near it. Door locks still intact. No alert from the intrusion system. We pulled the GPS log. The cruiser never left the shoulder, just idled. Body cam footage was even stranger. It cut out the same second the dash feed did. When it came back, the angle had shifted, tilted down sharply, lens aimed at Rains's thigh. It stayed there for 20 whole minutes. Until Rains moved again. He swore he never touched it. I started pulling similar reports, cross-referencing strange shutdowns and unexplained vehicle stops. That's when I got a system ping. Route 11 again, same location, but not this year. 1996, highway maintenance call. A truck sent out for debris removal after a storm, never made it back. Dispatch lost contact around 2:11 a.m. Vehicle was later found pulled over in the same bend. Engine running, doors locked, no sign of the driver. The cab smelled like mud, like overturned earth. Only thing left inside was a boot on the passenger side floor. The heel was coated in something gray, oily. Lab said it didn't match any known polymer. The report was closed without resolution. I wanted to see the file myself. Went to the county archives. Asked the clerk at the records desk. She paused, then frowned. "You already have it," she said. "You checked it out this morning, said it was urgent." She handed me the slip. My name, my badge number, 8:43 a.m., signed in black ink. But I hadn't been there that day. Not even close. My shift started at noon. And my pen, my black ink pen, it was missing from my desk. We reached the edge of the tree line at 3:46 a.m. The night was heavy, a pressure in the air like a storm that didn't know it was late. Cold wind whipped against the cab, shaking the rear view just enough to make reflections look wrong. Sanders turned to me and said, "We pass mile marker 33, we turn around." No matter what, Agreed? I agreed. And then we passed mile marker 33. The shoulder dipped narrow as we coasted past. On the dash cam, everything looked the same as before. Same fog, same road. But there was a shift in the shadows on the left side of the frame. Just a flicker, something ducking out of sight as we passed it. I marked it for review. Mile 34 came and went. Sanders didn't speak again until mile 36. He was squinting ahead, trying to read something in the road. When we got closer, I saw it too. Burn marks, not tire tracks, not a spill. Circular imprints seared into the asphalt, like someone pressed a massive branding iron into the road and left it smoldering. 4 of them, perfectly equidistant, like a giant's footprints burned into the blacktop. We stopped. We got out. The cameras caught the shapes more clearly in infrared. The burn zones were still warm, not fresh, but not cold either, as if they'd been made hours ago and the road had refused to cool. Sanders walked the perimeter of each print, muttering measurements, staring at the grooves along the edges. He crouched down and said something under his breath. I asked him to repeat it. Looks like launch residue, like from something heavy, liftoff grade. My chest tightened. There are no records of any launches within 200 miles of here. Not public, not private. This was logging country, an empty land. And the road beneath our feet was old, barely maintained, almost forgotten. The silence broke when Sanders' radio clicked on by itself. It wasn't dispatch, not static either. Just a low, drawn-out hum, like a reversed dial tone buried in concrete. Then a voice, faint, mechanical. Still watching. He yanked the radio from his belt and clicked it off. The hum continued, not from the device, from the ground. It was vibrating. We backed off fast, returned to the cab, slammed the doors. As we pulled away, I glanced back at the footage. The road shimmered behind us. Not heat, not distortion. The kind of ripple you get when video loops incorrectly, like it was trying to reset. But something was stuck. And then it did. The footage cut, jumped back 6 minutes. We watched ourselves pull up to the scene again, identical down to the second. But this time, the camera caught a figure crouched over one of the burn marks. It wasn't either of us. The dashcam timestamp froze at 2:37 a.m. Something I didn't notice until I pulled off the road and realized the truck hadn't made a sound in nearly 10 minutes. No engine hum, no tire crunch, just stillness. I killed the ignition and stepped out into the night air. The sky above was thick with clouds, and Route 11 stretched behind me in a long, empty ribbon of asphalt. But ahead the shoulder curved around a rock wall and vanished into dense tree cover. I was about to turn back when I saw the light. Not headlights, not a flashlight. It was too steady, pale, blue-white, flickering like it was struggling to stay on. It pulsed from deep in the woods, about 30 feet off the road. I radioed it in. Dispatch didn't answer. Just static. I waited 10 seconds. Tried again. This time someone answered, but it wasn't my dispatcher. It was a voice I didn't recognize. Flat, dry. "Confirm your last location," it said. I paused. Who is this? Silence. I didn't repeat myself. I hung up and marked my location manually. Then I made the mistake of following the light. The forest was silent, like someone had muted the entire soundscape. No wind, no insects. The kind of silence that messes with your sense of distance. The light pulsed brighter now, coming from behind a thick curtain of evergreens. Pushed through and found a clearing I swear hadn't been there before. In the center stood a bus, city model, no plates. Its windows fogged, its frame caked in red dust like it had been buried and dragged back up. The inside lights were on, weak, stuttering, one flickering fluorescent buzzing faintly behind the driver's seat. The back door was wide open. I called out. No answer. I stepped inside. Every seat was filled. Not with people, at least not anymore. Figures, wrapped in canvas or plastic, each body seated upright, facing forward, arms neatly folded or resting at their sides. No blood, no smell. Just a sense of being watched, of something having already looked at me before I even stepped on. At the front of the bus was a small monitor, CRT, old and humming. It came to life as I stepped forward. The footage was from the back of the bus, showing me, watching me walk down the aisle. But there was something wrong. In the footage, I stopped halfway, looked to my left, touched one of the bodies. I hadn't done that. In the video, the figure I touched snapped its head toward me, blinked, moved. I ran, fell backward off the steps, scrambled to my feet and didn't look back. I heard the monitor behind me click off. Back in the cruiser, the radio was crackling again. Same voice. Footage saved. Playback in progress. The timestamp was still frozen, and when I checked the dash cam later, it showed the forest. Not the road, not the bus. Just trees. And in the distance, flickering between frames, myself, standing in the clearing, still staring at the screen. The cruiser came to a full stop just past mile marker 48. No other vehicles in sight, no wind, no movement. Just that thick, silent dusk that coats the shoulder like ash. Deputy Callan reached for the door handle, paused, and said something into the radio. Static swallowed the reply. We watched from the mobile unit on the hill. 3 screens opened, all focused on the cruiser, each from a different angle. The dash cam, the highway pole cam, and the overhead drone. None of them matched. In one, Callan remained inside the car. In another, he stood outside, flashlight drawn. In the third, the car was empty, door wide open, no sign of him at all. For 2 minutes, all 3 feeds ran simultaneously. Then they glitched, separately. Not like a sync issue, more like each version was on a different timeline. The drone footage jittered first. It froze, then replayed the last 10 seconds in reverse, like someone had dragged a cursor backward, then forward again. In the dash cam, the interior of the cruiser started to shift. The upholstery changed patterns, the radio display blinked a date we couldn't confirm. August 7th, 2031. The pole cam. It was the worst. It zoomed without input, slowly, inch by inch, toward the empty shoulder. Then a shape appeared, not walking, not approaching, just manifesting. It wasn't there in one frame, then it was. Human in outline, unreadable in detail, like a smear of motion, paused mid-breath. It stood directly in front of the cruiser, facing the camera. Still, waiting. In the drone feed, Callan exited the vehicle. He stepped forward like he saw the same thing. He reached out, but the moment his hand moved into frame, the feed fractured. All 3 screens blinked out. Not black, white. A bright, burning static that hissed with a tone just high enough to make our teeth vibrate. We scrambled to regain connection, switched backups, rebooted lines, replayed cached segments. Nothing came through until 2:13 a.m. sharp. Then everything resumed. The cruiser was parked on the opposite side of the road now. Engine running, door open, interior lights on. Callan was back in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead. He looked altered. His badge was on the wrong side. His nameplate read backward. When we radioed him, he answered before we hit transmit. "Shoulders clear," he said. "No more activity. I've logged it." His voice was slower, like a dubbing mismatch in a foreign film. slightly too delayed from the mouth movement. We asked him to return to base. He pulled back onto the road without signaling. When he arrived, we met him outside. His uniform was regulation, but his boots were laced wrong, mirror tied, left over right. The way rookies do before training fixes them. He handed us the cruiser keys and said he needed to file his report alone. We checked the cruiser after he left. The dash cam was missing. The onboard system showed no log past 1:47 a.m. The passenger seat had a single item resting on it, a folded piece of paper with no markings. When opened, it revealed a hand-drawn map. No names, no roads, just a stretch of highway marked by 2 points. Start and return. A red X sat between them. It was labeled 213. We tried to reach Callan the next morning. His number redirected. His badge was returned. His personnel file was marked inactive 7 years ago. And yet, in last night's highway footage, at 2:13 a.m. sharp, his cruiser passed mile marker 48. Again, lights on, radio silent, driver staring straight ahead. Same route, same time, like it was his turn again. End of story, story 3. Exit 34 south of the stretch of road between Pine Junction and Restwell doesn't show up properly on most GPS apps. Locals know it well though. 2-lane blacktop, no shoulder, flanked by trees that seem to lean too close. Folks say the forest grows faster out there, like it's trying to swallow the road whole. There's a turnoff, exit 34 south, that used to lead to a way station and a diner, but both shut down years ago after a mudslide made the area unstable. At least, that's the official story. Dale, a long-haul driver with 18 years behind the wheel, had never taken that exit until last Thursday. He was running late, hauling commercial appliances cross-country, fighting exhaustion and static-ridden AM radio. The storm hadn't helped. Rain so thick it looked like curtains pouring from the sky. When he saw the green sign through the downpour, exit 34 south, service area, he didn't hesitate. He turned off. The ramp felt longer than expected. At first, just slick pavement and water, but soon it dipped sharply, and the trees on either side became denser, looming. Dale figured the mudslide damage must have closed the road beyond a certain point, but there weren't any barricades, no cones, just silence, no other vehicles. Even the rain seemed to die down, like the forest swallowed the sound. He eased the truck down a narrow bend until the headlights caught something. The way station, lit. Not dimly, not flickering, fully powered. Lights in the office, a truck already parked on the scale. The whole setup looked operational, too clean, too new. He slowed to a stop behind the parked rig and blinked. There was no one in the cab, no license plates either. The rear trailer doors were open slightly, swinging with the wind. He felt it in his gut, not fear exactly, but something older, an instinct. Still, he climbed down. Rain pattered around him softly. He stepped past the scale booth toward the office. The interior was fluorescent bright and empty. No clerk, no papers, no smell of coffee or food or people. Just a terminal running, displaying red text. Unit received. Remain for processing. He backed away, fast, climbed into his truck, reached for the ignition. Nothing. His headlights flickered. The other rig's trailer doors creaked wider. Something moved inside. Then the office lights shut off, and the way station display ticked up, slowly, steadily, counting a weight that didn't match either truck. We combed through the footage frame by frame. The dash cam captured the man clearly, standing on the shoulder at the edge of the fog. But here's the thing. He didn't move, not an inch, not a twitch. Just stood there, head tilted slightly, like he was waiting for something, or maybe someone. His outline barely shifted, even as the headlights hit him square. No blink, no shuffle, just that faint, eerie lean. The timestamp on the footage blinked erratically during the 10 seconds he appeared. Then it jumped, full-on skipped, from 2:42:18 to 2:43:51. No transition, no compression artifacting, just gone. When the image returned, the man was no longer there, and the fog had thinned, like someone had pulled back a curtain or switched scenes in a film. The area where he stood looked untouched, like he'd never been there at all. We sent the tape to the techs at HQ, hoping for an explanation. They ran diagnostics, scrubbed the footage through different filters, and confirmed it wasn't tampered with. Frame integrity was intact. But one analyst, Dr. Felix Darin, pointed out something no one else had noticed. The missing time wasn't just absent, it was overwritten, like a patch applied over corrupted memory. When they isolated the audio track, they found a low, almost imperceptible tone buried beneath the engine noise. Something not even our onboard systems had flagged. Darin enhanced it, cleaned it, slowed it down, and filtered out the frequencies. There was a voice. "Turn around." That's all it said. Just once. Soft, clear, and far too close to the mic. We went back to the area during daylight. Exit 34 South didn't lead to anything anymore, just overgrowth and cracked pavement. The signs had been pulled down, and the ramp itself was partially blocked by rusted construction barriers and an old barrel full of rainwater. No record of why, no permit, no scheduled detour. We tried pulling old satellite maps, hoping to find when the changes started. But the last clear image of the off-ramp was from 2009. Every picture after that was either corrupted, blurred, or cut off right at the interchange, like something didn't want it documented. One local we interviewed, an older gas station attendant named Rick, said the ramp used to lead to a rest stop. Small thing, he told us, lighting a cigarette with shaky fingers. 2 vending machines, a bathroom, maybe a ranger station. But it's gone now. It hasn't been there for years. Demolished? I asked. He just shook his head. Not gone like that. Gone like it never was. Like someone erased it from the map but forgot to tell us. Later that night, our cruiser picked up an automatic alert. Motion detected on the southbound shoulder. Same coordinates, same time, 2:43 a.m. We responded. Lights off, cameras rolling. As we crept toward the spot, a figure stepped out of the fogs again. Not the same man this time. A woman, pale, barefoot, her dress soaked like she'd walked through a river or been standing in water for hours. She stood in the exact same place he had. Same stillness, same tilt of the head, like a mannequin posed by memory. When we stopped the vehicle, she raised her arm and pointed, not at us, but behind us. And the fog, thick as ever, rolled in hard, completely blinding. It swallowed the cruiser's lights in seconds. The dashboard glitched like it was fighting a surge. The radio cut to static mid-sentence. Then the engine died. We turned to look where she was pointing, and she was gone. Nothing but tire tracks behind us, and a line of footprints in the gravel leading straight into the woods. Barefoot prints, water darkened, deep like whoever made them was heavier than they should be. We waited until sunrise before calling it in. We didn't speak, we didn't move. Just sat there with the cameras off, windows shut, the fog creeping up the glass like it wanted to come inside. The weather had turned since the night of the incident. Colder, windier. Like the highway had changed its mind about who was welcome there. Sheriff Maddox sat in his cruiser on the shoulder, engine idling low, watching the stretch between mile marker 211 and exit 34 South. Same stretch of road, same curves, but none of it felt right anymore. At 2:13 a.m. sharp, the cruiser's dashcam powered on by itself. No ignition trigger, no remote access. The screen blinked once and then began recording. Maddox leaned forward, confused. His hands hadn't moved, no light passed. The road remained empty, but the timestamp rolled forward, and in the reflection of the windshield, he saw it again. The same thing he'd seen 2 nights before. A figure, standing in the lane, not moving. He looked up instantly. The road was still empty, but the dashcam feed showed something there. A silhouette facing the cruiser, right in the middle of the asphalt. No headlights on it, no heat signature, just shape and shadow, like it had been taped over the lens. Maddox stepped out, flashlight in hand, breath misting in the air. He scanned the road. Nothing. Asphalt, silence, pine trees stretching off into pitch black. But the moment he turned back to the cruiser, the silhouette was gone from the camera. Not faded, gone. He reviewed the footage, rewound it, frame by frame. Still there, still visible, but only in playback. Like it had left an imprint on the feed, not the world. He exported the file and radioed it in, his voice low and tight. Dispatch responded, but the voice didn't belong to the night operator. It was his own, slightly off, slower. "Copy that, Unit 12, the voice said, calm and hollow. "We see you now." He cut the feed. That morning, they pulled old traffic data from the past 2 weeks. More than 20 flagged anomalies on that stretch of road. Vehicles pausing for no reason, sudden decelerations, several feeds showing the same glitch, a frame skip at exactly 2:13 a.m., followed by 3 frames of pure black, every single one from exit 34 south. They brought in a signal sweep team to rule out interference. What they found was worse. A narrow band EM pulse originating from the roadside emergency box, one that hadn't been active since 2004. The line was dead, rusted through, wires exposed. But the pulse was real. It triggered 3 seconds before every glitch. And every time they opened the footage, the files grew longer. New frames, new anomalies, movements in the tree line, shapes in the fog, a slow, synchronized twitch from headlights recorded at the same angle. Like the shadows were syncing up. Maddox didn't sleep that night. 2:13 a.m., the emergency box lit up again. No wind, no noise, just one light, and the sound of footsteps approaching from behind the cruiser, caught only on the dash cam, not by his ears. The 4th night started the same as the last 3. An open stretch of highway, the rumble of tires on pavement, and the slow, subtle shift of the world after passing exit 34. This time, I didn't drive. I set up 2 trail cams on the overpass just before the exit sign and another in the grass facing the shoulder. I left the car idling, dash cam running, and stepped back with a hand radio. 1:27 a.m., the usual time. Same moment the last 3 events triggered. Nothing moved. Then the wind stopped, not died down, just stopped, like the air itself had locked up. Seconds later, the dash cam flickered. No sound, no interference, just a single frame glitch, a flash of static. I clicked on the radio and said my name. The radio answered back. My voice, delayed by half a second, not recorded, not echoed, just late. I froze, watching the road. That's when I saw the car. It wasn't mine. Same make, same model, same tag. But the rear window was cracked open, something I never do. The brake lights flashed once. Then it slowly pulled into the shoulder directly in front of me. The engine cut. Nothing moved. I approached carefully, flashlight off, weapon holstered. The interior was empty, or looked that way. But then I caught the reflection in the mirror, a shape in the back seat. not fully formed, like it was only half there. Limbs out of proportion, like it was practicing how to sit like a person. It turned its head. I stepped back, heart pounding. It didn't get out. It just sat there, watching. Then it smiled. Not a grin, not human. A slow stretch of muscle across too much face. The rear window fogged from inside, and through the condensation, it traced a symbol, one I'd seen before. Etched into the asphalt a mile past the exit ramp. A spiral, fractured at the edges. The cam I set in the grass captured the moment. Frame by frame, the car appeared, but there was no transition. One frame it wasn't there, the next it was. No movement, no sound, just presence. At 1:34 a.m., it vanished. I checked the tape. Static over the audio, timestamp reversed, like the event had unhappened in real time. But I remember it. I remember watching myself look into that car. And I remember that thing watching me back, learning how to blink. Tomorrow night, I'm going to sit in the car, see what watches from the road. The engine gave out a final, sputtering gasp as I rolled onto the shoulder just past the crumbling Exit 34 South sign. The last part of the drive had been dead silent. No radio, no road noise, no voice from the back seat like before. Just an eerie quiet, as if the whole stretch of highway had gone into hiding. Outside, the fog clung thick to the windows. I couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. The shape of the overpass loomed just barely in view, outlined by rusted railings and cracks where the road had buckled. I stepped out slowly, crunching gravel underfoot, flashlight trembling in my hand. The structure hummed with an almost imperceptible frequency. Not a sound exactly. More like a presence, a pressure that settled just behind my ears. As I neared the base of the bridge, I saw them, dozens of them, figures, standing still, lined up beneath the concrete overpass like a forgotten congregation, their heads bowed, their hands limp at their sides. Men, women, children, even animals, all motionless, all facing a single direction. The rusted fence at the far edge of the shoulder. They weren't just standing there. They were waiting. One of them turned its head slightly as I approached. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough for me to see its face, or what was left of it. Blank skin, no mouth, no eyes, just smooth, featureless flesh pulled tight over bone. But somehow, I knew it was looking at me. I staggered back, breath caught in my throat. The others began to shift, not in unison, not like soldiers, but like something waking up. Their limbs twitched, heads cocked, shoulders rolled, not natural, learned, practiced. A child figure stepped forward. No face, but it raised a hand and pointed at me. Behind it, the others began to repeat the motion, one by one, hands lifting in silent accusation. The last to point was a woman near the back. Her other hand held a camcorder. She pressed play. My voice came out of the speaker. Exit 34 South. Do not stop. Do not look. Do not... The recording warped, glitched, reversed. Tuokul Tuen, Pots Tuen, Atuas 43 Tixi. The camcorder's light flared bright, blinding, and in that moment, they moved, all of them. Rushing me, but not running, gliding, like they weren't touching the ground. I turned and ran, toward the fence, toward whatever lay beyond. My legs screamed, lungs burned, the gravel gave way beneath me. I didn't look back, not once. Not even when the screaming started, not from them, from me. Because as I climbed the rusted fence, the camcorder audio still echoed in my head. And now, it wasn't my voice anymore. It was learning a new one. Yours. End of story.